Hello, and welcome back to our final segment around Algebra 2, Unit 6, Inferences and Conclusions from Data. I'm James Key, here on the set of Homework Hotline Live, here with my colleague Brian Crane. Brian, I just want to say I personally have so benefited from the conversations that we've had around statistics, and really hope that our Algebra 2 teachers across the district are benefiting from that as well.
I think it's been a pleasure for me as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
In this last segment, we know that statistics come up in an awful lot of places. We see it on the news, we see it in the newspaper, we see it in journals, all kinds of places. What are some of the things that readers need to know in order to make sense of statistical information that's presented in reports?
Certainly. What you really need to do in terms of analyzing whenever you either hear something or read something is first to make sure that, okay, what are we purporting to report about? Because sometimes you'll get a statement saying, well, we want to do this, and then the conclusion of the report has nothing to do with what they say they're going to do. So that's the first thing you really have to look at here. The second thing is, okay, if you're going to hear a statistic, how was this statistic, developed? Did we conduct a survey? Did we do an observational study? Did we do an experiment? Exactly how did we come up with this? How did we get our sample? And is that sample representative? Now, they're not going to tell you that it was or wasn't, so you kind of have to, analyze. If they give you a methodology, and hopefully good reports will do that, particularly written reports. A lot of times on the news, you're not going to see, a whole long exposition about how they actually did this. They'll simply give you a number and a margin of error. But again, particularly if it's a written report, you really have to kind of look through it and say, okay, how did they determine this sample? Is it representative? Again, as I said, are the conclusions are the conclusions related to the actual thing that they wanted to find? If not, okay, are they coming to some kind of other conclusions? Something that really, is like extraneous to what, they talked about in, the original survey. Sometimes they can use this data to make conclusions that aren't valid, based on the data they happen to get. And also, are you hearing a single number? Are you hearing a confidence level, and a margin of error? If you're just hearing a single number, there's difficulties here because, again, you don't know, is there a margin of error? Also, how accurate is the number they give? One of the things that statisticians and people that report like to do is they seem to think that the more accurate the number you give them in terms of decimal places or actual number is going to be, it's a much more effective survey. For example, in that last problem we talked about in the last segment, the mean sleep is 8.585. Well, gee, that's the nearest thousandth of an hour. This must be a very, very accurate survey. So those are the kinds of things you really have to look at, and you have to think every time you hear a number or read a report, based upon a statistic that purports to estimate a population parameter.
Brian, thanks for those helpful considerations for consumers of information. I appreciate how you talked about really looking at the methodology for a study. That's developing the kind of critical thinking skills that we really want to provide our students as we educate them in MCPS. So,
James.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope that this discussion of statistics around Unit 6 is helpful to you as you think about the mathematics that you'll be teaching your students. Thank you for tuning in.